Today I'm going to talk about thermals a little bit and how we can still see the effect of thermals and how bucks use it here in Florida or Central Florida swamp to where there's very little elevation change. And we're going to take a hunt I had from opening day, which was Saturday, and we're basically going to watch the video and then I'm going to talk about some things. But I've been back to the wood. I got to hunt Saturday evening, Sunday morning, and Monday evening so far, and today is Wednesday. So Monday evening I did some looking around and kind of confirmed what I thought was going on, that I saw on my other trips, and basically what I saw on this hunt we're about to watch. So we're gonna watch the video and talk about it just a little bit. I missed a real big buck, an old deer, big buck, with 18 minutes of legal shooting light left, which if you hunt the swamp, you know 18 minutes of shooting light left is pretty dark. Like it was, I had literally just put the camera up. I took it off the arm, put it in my case. I got a crush proof case, whatever. I put it in the case, set it in my bag, and the buck came out. So don't have footage of it, but I want to talk about basically why I set up there and what the buck was doing and how he was using the thermals. Before we get into that, I've had quite a few success stories come in since Zone C opened Saturday, and one of them, he dropped the deer off yesterday. I don't remember all the details. Maybe we'll sit down and talk to him and get the full story on camera when he comes to pick up his deer or something. But first public archery buck, and maybe first archery buck period, but first public archery buck, and the guy Ramirez, the guy's name. I'll throw a few pictures in here, but he's a registry buck. Got him, roughly looked at his jaw. I've got him over 6.5 years old. Definitely a mature as mature gets. So he told me the full story yesterday when he dropped the deer off. But he basically had the buck. You see the trail camera picture. He had him at night, so he obviously didn't want to hunt him there. And he spent time looking at the maps, and decided on opening morning he was going to do a big loop and get around on the other side of a swamp, or in a swamp, but come in from the backside, loop all the way around and come in from the backside, about a quarter mile from the camera. And got in there and set up, and I guess didn't realize till he got up the tree, or at some point he had dropped his quiver, but he had an arrow in his hand. Don't know all the details there, but anyway, only had one arrow while he was in the tree. And this buck he shot comes out, and I forget what he said. He made like a 12-yard shot, something perfect. Set up out in the swamp, like 300 yards off the hill. Shot that buck, and before he even got down, an even bigger one comes up and hangs out at 10 yards. So it was a pretty cool story. We might get the full story on here. But it kind of lines up with what I'm wanting to talk about today, and bucks using the low spots for safety, thermal, scent pulling down, settling in low spots, things like that. So anyway, we'll watch the video, and then I want to talk about it a little bit. Well, it's 3:15 on opening day. Me and Triston just got out here and got set up. The little one was running a fever last night, and I had people needing to drop some things off this morning, so we didn't make it to camp last night, and here we are now. I guess I can't complain. It's not as hot as it has been, but there's not a dry spot on me. I was going to go a lot farther than I did,
But we basically just parked and then scouted our way in together. And Triston, the bucks aren't really making sign yet, but we picked up a few buck tracks, or at least 2 buck tracks, and then there was a bunch of poop, and you could see where they'd been feeding on the oak that has just started dropping. So kind of an isolated oak out in the middle of the swamp. And that's where Triston's at, and I kept on coming. And as I came, the deer sign kind of got less and less. But I got up here and there's a bunch of big trees blowed down from the storm last year, and it's opened this junk up and there's just browse everywhere. And then it kind of narrowed them down a little bit, and I could see several sets of tracks on top of the rain coming around these trees. I guess it rained yesterday. The wind's obviously doing its swirly stuff, but it's been some sort of this way the whole time. I set up for a shot right here at like 5 yards. We shall see. We shall see. Got plenty of time, it's early. It's 4:50. I haven't seen anything. Triston just had some hogs come in, I guess, feeding on them acorns, and said he missed one shot low. I don't know if there's any footage, I'll throw it in here, but it's 5:20. Sunset today is 7:35, so we still got plenty of time. See if it works. The wind's kind of calmed down just a little. got these hogs right here in front of me. Got about 25 minutes of legal light left. 23 minutes. It's getting too dark for the camera. I'm gonna give it 3 or 4 more minutes and I'm gonna start packing up.
Alright, so you can see how I was set up there, and basically how it lays out is there's a big slough. So the wind was coming, almost hitting me in the face, but the wind was out of the northeast, and there was a big slough probably 60 yards to my right that ran northeast. So that scent and that wind is going to be pulling down that, and there was a slough that came. It kind of had a little bend in it where I sat, but you can see when I panned around and I did the little deer walking up shot. That was my shot. That was what I was expecting. There was a big pond in the back behind me where I was hoping they would be bedded. My scent's blowing this way, and I was hoping he would hit that slough, to scent check and come out right there on that hill, on the edge of the hill, and not run that slough all the way up. But I was planning on them, in the evening. The thermals are falling, scent's falling, settling in a low spot. So a doe, might travel anywhere or whatever. But, they use thermals too, but a mature buck will, I think, stick to the low spots and really stay where that scent is. But how the wind was coming, I was hoping that I was high enough that it was blowing my scent off this way and then turning down into the bottom, and the buck would come out above my upwind of where my scent was hitting the slough. That was my anticipation. And that's what happened. So right after I'd put the camera up, I heard I think I may even saw it, I don't remember. Anyway, something caused me to look back, and I could see like deer movement, and then I saw an ear twitch, and then I realized I saw a whole beam out behind the tree, and he was at probably 20 yards, and I'd already took my arrow off my bow, had my quiver on, the whole 9 yards. I'm like fixing to break everything down. So anyway, I grabbed my bow, got an arrow out, got ready, and got spun around, and you could see when I showed you my shot, it would have been a 1/4-2 shot, if that's the way and that's what I set up for, was a 1/4-2 shot. So anyway, I drew, and I was having problems seeing my pin, or seeing, I could see my pins or I could see the deer, but I couldn't see both. And I'm sure a little bit of that is age, but anyway, so I aimed at him, and like, man, I can't see. Well, I let down. Well, he took 3 steps out to 1/4-2. I was shooting his right side, but nothing between me and him. So I drew again and just aimed and focused, and finally got to where I had that pin. I could kind of make out the crease of his leg and put the pin right on where it would come in right behind right in the shoulder blade, but right behind the leg. Settled it, and he had heard the hogs and stuff still out in front of me. I don't think he had any idea I was there. I think he was just being real cautious, moving a little bit like old bucks do. But, moving up a little bit and checking that scent, and moving up and checking the scent. I think that's what he was doing. But anyway, I settled it and released, and I don't have lighted knocks, but I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if I hit him, missed him. I mean, it felt great. I was 99% confident I had a dead buck, but he took off splashing in the water, and I quit hearing him, after 60, 80 yards, something like that. And I've never had one go that far. So I was questioning. I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't have shot, what all this. And I gave it probably 15 minutes, maybe. I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. Tore all my stuff down and eased over there and found my broken arrow. And what had happened is I couldn't see them. It was dark enough that the deer's silhouette, the deer's behind them, I blocked them. I couldn't see it all. But what it was 2 tall cypress knees side by side, basically right up the deer's leg, I'm sure. And I nicked one. You know, I hit him about that far from the top of the cypress knees, but it nicked one and kicked that air around and hit the second one. You know, the deer was standing right behind him, that far behind him. So my shot was on. I just didn't see the cypress knees, and it snapped my arrow in half. So didn't touch the deer at all, which is great. I didn't wound him. Probably, you know, looking back, maybe I shouldn't have shot. I don't know. I was confident when I released, but hindsight's 20/20. I didn't realize that I couldn't see cypress knees, obviously. But I still had, at this time, I think I still had 18 minutes of legal shooting light left. But it was a 17-yard 1/4-2 shot, and I smacked the cypress knee. So it absolutely worked out perfect. You know, if I could have done anything, and I was going in blind, scouting my way in blind. So if I would have done anything different, you know, if I'd have just been 10 or 20 yards farther towards the edge of the slough, that would have, if he did the same thing, that would have, you know, increased my shot chance, because he was probably there 3 minutes before I shot him, or shot at him. But then again, the exact tree I picked was so the wind wasn't making it into that slough and being pulled down where I thought he was coming out of. So I don't know, I could have made the right call, but what I'm wanting to focus on is the deer that are bucks, older bucks, bedding in the low spots, which everybody knows they bed in the low spots in the water, you know, little rises in the water. And then when I went back out Sunday morning on my way in, I came in, which was a totally different area. I didn't want to go back in there where I'd shot at the buck, but same swamp terrain. Going into the dark, I decided I was going to cut straight across the middle of a big bad cypress pond, and instead of trying to walk the edge, because I didn't know where the deer would be, and I assumed they would be out there feeding. So anyway, I walked in the dark, and you know, an hour and a half before daylight, I walked up on 2 buck beds, had rubs in them, poop everywhere, full of hair, been used a lot, out in the middle of that cypress pond. So I may have messed that up, but when I went back Monday evening, focusing on low spots now, and so I basically skirted way around. I was scouting my way in, but I wasn't going to set up on the first hot sign I saw. I was going to make it to a certain point, because I wanted to look at several slough crossing. I wanted to get across several sloughs and see what the deer were doing. So skirted way around on my way in, and actually the best sign was closer to the road. So I kind of went through the best sign to get where I ended up sitting till dark and only seeing a doe and some hogs. But I know now that, like, the buck, I crossed multiple big buck tracks, and one track is one of the biggest tracks I've ever seen. And it's probably a buck I had on camera last year, I'm assuming. But they're using the sloughs. Like, there's not pretty ridges, but there's a 2-foot elevation change. And you know, with that elevation change, you get the greenery, and you got some oaks and natural places you want to sit and pretty. You can see a little farther. The cypress are the trees are tight, so you're looking through gaps and all that stuff. But the bucks were traveling almost dead center of them sloughs, and I think a lot of that is thermals, where that scent's pulling down there. So anyway, I thought that might help somebody. I've had a lot of success stories coming since opening day, so congratulations to everybody. I'm doing everything I can to get things caught up where I can go here and there. There's good videos on YouTube explaining how thermals work. I would assume most people know, but I almost, like in the evening times, I almost think about it like it's water. My scent is like it's water, like it's falling and gonna flow. But you'll have a predominant wind that is going to push it. So if I'm 16 foot in the tree, it's pushing it and it's falling out here, and then it's following the low spot. You know, it's following the slough, which is why I set up where I did. And with the bucks, I mean, it looked like almost strictly using the sloughs and the thermals for traveling right now. And I'm not saying that makes it easy to kill them, but it definitely increases the chances if you're narrowing them, if you can narrow them down to them low spots and them sloughs, and you get a 5-6 mile an hour predominant wind pushing that scent over. There's a lot of opportunity there. So anyway, I hope that helps somebody. Good luck to everybody, and hopefully I'll be seeing you in the woods here in a couple days.